on Wednesday, but my plans for this morning have changed. So I'm back live on YouTube because this early in the morning before I really get my routine started. And since everything is already prepped and ready to go, I can spend some time with you guys talking about more caregiving topics, things that are of concern, things that we have to think about, things that, we want to prepare for. And having those tough conversations, having those hard conversations are so important. But let me tell you guys also, this morning I woke up, the weather is kind of fluctuating. So the weather goes to a point where it gets warm in the evening and then we've got to cold weather in the middle of the night. I woke up and I was freezing and then someone turned the heat up and now I woke up in a hot sweat, right? It was so unbelievably warm. Good morning, happy Tuesday to whoever knocked on or jumped on. Let me know who you are. Double tap the screen, give me some likes, and let's talk about our topic for today. But I just want to let you guys know, it doesn't matter what we go through. We always have to have a positive mindset, right? And that's so important in caregiving. But the one thing we're going to have to do is get ready to have those tough conversations with people about ourselves and our needs, as well as with other people about their final arrangements and final preparations if you are providing care for someone. Those conversations are difficult. So we're going to talk about some things that you can do in order to prepare for that kind of conversation in advance. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Tuesday. I hope you had a good Monday. I hope you had a good evening and didn't wake up in a ball of sweat. Somebody had kicked the temperature up to 80 degrees. It was unbelievably warm in here this morning. So I got the cool air on. Hopefully it will cool the house off and things will get better. But I also hope that you guys had a wonderful evening as well. So, how do you express yourself as a caregiver? We kind of touched on this a couple of days ago. We kind of discussed some of the things that we have to, deal with. And no, Mr. Shepherd, I'm not a grandma. I'm not a grandma yet, but I hope to be one. And so, if you're looking for a grandma to have a conversation with, I'm not that person. When I am a grandma, I will let you know because I'm so excited to become one. Hopefully, one of my kids will make me a grandma soon. We'll see what happens. But if not, I'll keep loving on other people's kids, okay? But instead of your comment, Mr. Shepherd, I hope you have had a wonderful day. And I hope you have a wonderful day the rest of the week. Now, getting back into caregiving and how to have those conversations, like I said, we touched on this a couple of days ago. As a caregiver, you do have to express yourself. You do have to let people know how you're feeling. You have to be able to have your emotions understood and clearly defined to the people that are around you who know that you're providing this assistance and not in any way uh, get to the point where you are, so introverted and holding everything in that you just feel like you're not being seen or heard. People sometimes think that you're fine as a caregiver and you're not. So here's some things that you can do when you're explaining yourself to people. Let them know that it's very hard for you at times. Thank you so much, Balu Bear. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the likes. Thank you guys. Double tap the screen and give me some likes while we're on here talking about first topic, how to express yourself as a caregiver. Let them know that you feel that pain, that you yourself are just going through something through this experience, that you feel that you're not being heard or seen or understood, and that can impact the care that you give to someone else. It's very hard to give care to someone if you yourself are also hurting, right? And so you don't want to go in with a negative attitude as if, this is so hard for you because you're going to impact the person that's receiving care. And a lot of us don't really understand. Sometimes our emotions, the way that we are, impacts the persons that we're caring for. Good morning, everyone. I hope you guys had a wonderful evening. Thank you for jumping on. I said that I wouldn't be back on until Wednesday, but plans change. Let me tell you what happened yesterday. I am running around running errands because contrary to some people who have commented, I do have a real career. I work full time. I also manage the care of my mother. So I have a real career. Now, aside from that, I'm running around, I'm making sure that things are done in the home, and there is a leak in the basement. there's a leak in the basement. And unfortunately, they can't come out to service our home until this morning. So I'm making sure that things are aligned. And that's what happens when you're a caregiver. You can have the best plans, but then something will upend your day and you've got to hurry up and shift. Right? You've got to hurry up and get yourself together and make your plans, cancel plans, rearrange plans. I have appointments now that I've got to rearrange. And then I got to make sure that, everybody else has their plans cared for and met. And so that's what's so important. Guys, if any of you know how to block someone off of your chat, please let me know. I got to Google that next time for YouTube because, people come on here with negativity when this is what it's not about. And if you don't like it, you can just continue to scroll and move on. You don't have to join someone's live and be negative. Okay. And so, aside from that, you have to tell people what's going on in your world. You have to tell people if you're a caregiver, if you need help. I'm amazed at how many people, when I have told them, you know what? I have this going on, I have this going on. They know how to fix the problem and they offer render assistance. Okay. They often help people in order to, let me just do this, guys. Let me see if I can remove Mr. Shepherd. If any of you guys know how to do that. Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I think I just found it on YouTube. You know what? I'm on here talking about caregiving. I'm on here talking about expressing yourself and how people feel. I don't mind negative comments. I don't mind negative people because people in general, they are who they are. If they're having a bad day, they're going to spread that to you. But the comments, the nastiness, the looks about people's appearance, come on now. None of us are perfect. I know we all like to think we are, but none of us are perfect. So thank you, YouTube, for giving me the feature to block someone. And let's put Mr. Shepherd in timeout because that's what he needed, right? Clearly, I needed to give him care too. And that's what I gave him. I was his caregiver for just a minute. So as a caregiver, you have to be able, once again, to shift your schedule, make your plans change because you've got to accommodate other people. And that's something that we all have to think about. Let's say I have other friends who have siblings and they are the ones that are directly impacted or directly providing care for the person, let's say the elderly person, the elderly parent, right, that's receiving care. And yet the other siblings seem like they scot free. They drop in, they drop out. They really don't really assist. You still got to give care to the caregiver. Make sure that you are helping them because they're giving care. So it's like a twofold project. Thank you so much, Taylor Lee. Thank you so much, Jake. And so the caregiver is going to need care too, right? And they may not need it to the extent of the person receiving the actual care, but you're going to have to check on them. Make sure they're okay. And so when I started letting people in and letting them know that I needed help as well, even if it was just let me go out for a few minutes, let me kind of, catch my breath. As my kids got older, they're able to offer assistance even more so. Then that just made my life a lot easier. And so, as a caregiver, I had to start explaining to people at times how hard it is, right? We all have hard periods in life. If you've never had a hard period in life, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you, but it will come. And so we want to make sure that we are not in any way blocking people off. And when a caregiver comes to you and says, it's hard, I'm having a tough time with this, I don't know what to do, then that's when you really need to start engaging them and making sure that they're not doing things like missing sleep, that they're managing their medications if the caregiver is also someone who's on medicine. If the caregiver is an aging person as well who's providing care to their spouse or an aging friend, they might have medical needs too. Make sure that the caregiver's on their medicine. Make sure that the caregiver's not missing their sleep and their rest. Make sure that the caregiver is getting some time off so that they can also relax. When you meet someone who is giving care and they have had an emotional outburst, right? That's what we call them. They angry at the world. They mad. That person may need some downtime. That person needs some communication so that they can have someone that they can relate to in order to help them through this process. You can also, once again, we talked about this too, If you are a caregiver and you need people to fully understand what you're going through, invite them. Invite them to shadow you. Invite them to honestly see what you do every day. Pick a day. They can come a day, they can come the whole week. Let them know this is hard. I want you to understand what this involves, and this is how we're going to do it. If you have a day that's available, shadow me on this routine so that you can see what it actually involves to be a caregiver. I think that's so important for people to fully have a grasp and an understanding, because when they get a grasp on what you're doing, that's where the empathy comes in and the appreciation for what you're doing. That's when the empathy and the appreciation comes with what you're doing. So I say that second time for the people in the back because it's so important that people realize every time you are in, I think people in certain types of fields and career path, we have to empathize with them. Thank you guys for the likes. I think we all have to understand they're putting themselves out there for our benefit. And so we have to have empathy and appreciation for them. I'm amazed at what the people in medical services do, especially when you meet one with a good bedside manner and they really want to offer assistance and they really want to help. It's a beautiful thing to encounter someone, and I'll use your words, Taylor Lee, with a beautiful soul who's willing to give of themselves in order to provide care services to someone else, to check on someone else, and then turn around and ask you how you're doing. I had my mom's doctor do that to me. You know, my mom and I went for one of her appointments, and when, like I had mentioned before, it was very rough. I think the first time I took her on a full day schedule of appointments, by the time I came back, I was exhausted. I was exhausted. But the one thing that kept me really motivated is we're at her appointment. She's going through her list of information with her personal, her primary care physician. And then at some point, she turns around and asks me how I'm doing. And I was floored for a minute because I've never had, and even now, today, I very rarely as a caregiver have people ask me how I'm doing. And I'm okay with that because I'm used to that, right? But sometimes it's good to have that acknowledgement, have that empathetic person come to you and realize you're carrying a lot. You got a lot on your shoulders. How are you doing? And we need to do that to people really in life, don't we? Right? When people are going through stuff, it's just like if you're in times when I've had some people, when you lose someone, unfortunately, everybody's there initially. Everybody's there during the whole funeral process. But then after the funeral process is over, no one's there. And that's the time I really like to check on people. Everything is over because now that person has to settle back into daily life and living without that person. Check on them then as well. Give it a couple of days, give it a week. Even if they don't want to talk, send them a card. Because after the funeral process is when everybody leaves. And if it's someone who's been with that person for a long time, can you imagine how empty they may feel and lonely? So, caregiving, having someone empathetic with what you're going through, checking on them is a beautiful thing. And hats off to everybody who's doing it. Even though people may not see the need for the topic, we all are going through it. And if you're not going through it, then you're going to have to experience it. Trust me, it's coming. There are also caregiver communities out there. I haven't set up one yet, but I definitely intend to do one because to have that interchange of encouragement is so important. Having other people who understand and empathize what you're going through in different varying aspects is a beautiful thing. To be able to this is where you get your encouragement, but this is also where you get ideas. So one of the things that I think is amazing, and one of the things that I've often thought of, is my mom's immobile as far as her physical, right? But her mind is still sharp. So that's one of the things that we're working on, her mind, right? And so one of my friends actually said, play games with her. If you can, play games with her. So my mom is really good at certain games. And so I love spending time with her so that she can play games. Her thinking is off the hook. And so that keeps them engaged. That helps them not feel lonely, but it's also something that we as caregivers can do. So we always think, and thank you guys for the hearts. Tap the screen, give me some likes. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning. I know I said tomorrow, but we don't know honestly what tomorrow going to bring. Let's be real. Today is not going as planned already, but we'll see what tomorrow holds and we'll see if I can jump back on tomorrow. So Play games with them. That's one of the things. I love spades, and I am a trash talker when it comes to spades. Oh, yeah. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. My dad never taught me pinochle. I know pinochle is a wonderful card game. I would hear him cutting up with his friends. And every time I said, Dad, teach me pinochle, he was like, no, you too competitive. No, you're not good at pinochle. I wanted to learn how to play pinochle so bad. So I think what I'm going to do is pull the instructions and I'm going to teach myself pinochle and I'm going to play with my kids. My son-in-law like to play card games too. So playing games with people who need care, if they're physically able to do so, is another way to keep them engaged. And thank you so much for the hearts. You guys are awesome. And so that helps them to feel engaged. Caregiving is not always about being serious all the time. It's medication time. Let's take your medicine. It's doctor appointments time. Let's take, go to the doctors. You can have fun with caregiving too. Just like I tell you, when we go into the doctors and my mom needs an x-ray or some kind of MRI, or she's getting her regular exams, as women, we got to go through that. I always tell her, make sure she's not pregnant. I just want to make sure she ain't fooling with some dude I don't know about. And it gets a laugh, but it helps also put her at ease. It helps her to feel comfortable. I love playing games with her, right? Another thing that I do, don't be afraid of the memories. The memories is what comforts you and comforts them when you're giving care to them, right? And so, as an older person, you would think they don't want to think about what it was like when they were young. Yeah, they do. In fact, they don't even want to just think about it, they want to tell you about it. My parents like to travel. So, it didn't really start until I was at a certain age because they were worried about me and my sibling. And so, my parents, I remember when I was 10 years old, they took the whole summer off. It was us, because I was from a family of four, and it was my aunts and cousins, a couple of uncles, and they took the time off and we drove cross country, right? We've got tons of pictures of that experience. Here I am young, looking a little bit different, right? And so to take those pictures, when I started going through their stuff, my dad had all these pictures, but he hadn't put them in photo albums. And so I had to put them in photo albums. We got pictures of us at Mount Rushmore. We've got pictures of us at the Grand Canyon, right? Going across the desert at night and seeing the stars. Those memories help her to capture moments in time that make her happy. And that's what you want as a part of caregiving. Thank you so much for the hearts. You guys are amazing. I appreciate it. And so that's what we want to do as caregivers. Engage them, make them remember, because then they'll tell you stories about that. And there were behind the scenes stuff going on during that trip I ain't know nothing about. By the time we got back to Florida and we were, going to Disney World and stuff like that, and Disney World is nothing like it was. Disney World back then is nothing like it was now, right? Disney World, I think they had just built the Epcot Center. So that shows you how old I am, right? They had just built the Epcot Center. It wasn't even Magic Kingdom, it was just Kingdom. So therefore, therefore, having her remember those times and tell me about the experiences that happened, how they planned for it, how it was hard. I remember one time we broke down in the middle of the desert. I don't know why they decided to cross the desert during the day, but that's what happens when you have city people going across country and we don't know anything, right? And a tire blew out, and my dad and my uncles had to go get a tire. That was an experience. And in the middle of that, my other aunt had to use the bathroom. So having her remember as a caregiver, not being serious all the time, but having her remember those things and engaging is a beautiful experience. My parents, when I was 15, went to Taiwan and they were gone for a couple of weeks, right? So they went to Taiwan. And then when I was about, I think I was like 16 or 17, they actually went to Europe. They were gone for a while. My mom and I went to South America. We went to Paris and London. So we like to travel. And I learned that from my parents. So when I'm going through all of my dad's stuff and I'm giving care to my mom and she was, really devastated and going through it, I didn't do it right then and there. But what I did was took a whole bunch of those photos and I tried to organize them. And then I bought all these photo albums and I took time to put the stuff in albums. And then when the time was right, and she needed some encouragement. And she was feeling a little down about what she had and trying to remember what it was like. I went and showed her those photo albums that I pulled together for her. Now, This is a warning. When you do something like this, please understand, here's the warning. She cried, but they weren't really tears of grief, right? It may have started off as a little grieving because she was missing my dad, but the tears and the stories that came afterwards, she's bawling, I'm bawling, right? The memories when you're giving care, to let someone know you love them that much and let them know that they're not by themselves. And generating those memories helped keep them, mentally sharp, but also let them know that they're loved. I think out of all the things that I could do for my mom as her caregiver, giving her those photo albums and letting her reminisce was one of the best gifts, she said, right? Because it shows how much you love them, but also it shows how much you care. So don't be afraid to engage them in mental activities, to stimulate them, to remind them, yeah, we know what you used to be. And we can take a trip down memory lane, but I also value you for who you are right now because you're a woman with all this experience. And so caregiving doesn't have to be sad all the time, right? It can be very, very joyful. Thank you guys for the hearts. I really appreciate it. Double tap the screen, give me some likes too. You guys are amazing. So, and this is the hard topic. This is the hard topic we're about to talk about, right? No one wants to think about it. No one wants to really get into it. But you're going to have the conversation about prepping for funeral arrangements. As a caregiver, whether it be with the person directly or with their family member, you're going to have to discuss final arrangements. And that's going to be very difficult, especially depending on your relationship with the person. It's difficult even if you're just a caregiver and you just, have chosen this as a career path because you can become attached to people. And to see them suddenly fall worse, their ailments get worse, and then all of a sudden, you're talking about funeral arrangements, it's not an easy topic. It is never an easy topic. Every time my parents have come to me and talked to me about what they want done, I hear them, but I really don't want to have this conversation. I really don't. Because in my mind, you ain't going nowhere. I don't need you to go anywhere, right? I need you. So that should mean something. But that's not what life does to you. Life will throw you a curveball and you'll be like, wait a minute. I wasn't prepared. So having those conversations and being open and honest with the person that's receiving care or their family members about their decisions, what they want done when you start to plan their funeral arrangements. And if it is like for my example, I'm giving care to my mom, I had to have those conversations with her. I had to. And it was uncomfortable, unbelievably uncomfortable. But I had to take it serious as a caregiver because that time may come. And I need to know what happens. And let me tell you, having that conversation with her made me then turn around and have it with my children, just so that we're all on the same page. It's not that nobody wants to check out, right? Let's be honest. None of us do. But because it can happen and it's so sometimes unpredictable, we need to make sure that we're prepared for it. So here's some things that you want to ask. First of all, they should have a living will or some kind of advance directive or some kind of funeral plan already. If you've already set up some kind of prepaid funeral plan, I know that we've done that for other family members who, have expressed what their desires are. You can do that with certain funeral homes. But sit down and have that conversation, asking them how they want to handle their funeral expenses or their funeral plans. Now my dad was very, very different. And my mom too. My dad and my mom didn't want to have a memorial service. They didn't want a funeral. They felt like it would be too painful for the family. And I'm going to be honest with you. When my dad died, I don't think I could have handled it if we had to have a funeral service or arrangement. So my dad just wanted, this is what he would say. This is my dad, okay? Put me in a box and toss it somewhere. I don't care. Now, that's not what we did. But his whole focus was make it as easy on you and your mother and the kids emotionally as possible. He didn't want that stress. He didn't want that hurt, that grief, because it was so it was a lot. It was a lot. And so actually sitting down with him and hearing what he want done, I heard him. I heard him. I got him. And the same thing with my mom. So it made me have those conversations with her. And I am going to come up with more material that's going to be, just so you guys know, on my Etsy shop. I am coming up with more material to help you ease into that conversation, those conversations, right? I'm going to put this coffee cup down because clearly I'm not going to drink anytime soon. I'm going to come up with some information that you need in order to help you ease into that conversation. Remember yesterday when I talked about the guide that I have, one of the first things you do is set things up financially, right? One of the first things, if you go to that guide, that you do is make sure that certain things are outlined, because here's something else that's going to piggyback off of you financially, making sure that that person's wishes are adhered to. So those conversations, if they have a living will, if you know you have an advance directive, planning out how they want their services to be held is so important. If they're able to communicate that to you. Now, we're not saying this is going to happen tomorrow, and we hope not. But when it does happen, at least everybody is on the same page. Everybody, there are no questions. A lot of times when people haven't planned in advance as far as caregiving, even for final arrangements, and when you're looking among families, there's a lot of unnecessary fighting because people will pass away and nobody's expecting it. Nobody knows what that person wanted. No one's willing to pay for the expenses. Let's be real. No one's willing to chip in. But then they also, and funerals are expensive. No one knows what that person really wanted because we don't have those conversations and we need to. Thank you for the hearts, guys. Thank you so much. And so we need to have those conversations so that we're all on the same page and make it easier for our families. We need to let them know, do we have policies in place that will cover those expenses? Have we aligned and assigned beneficiaries for those policies? It's not that we're trying to tell all our business. It's not that we are trying to, you know, pit people one against each other or anything like that, but we want to make sure that our family's covered. We want to make sure that we're not leaving any kind of options open that would cause contention or arguing within the family unit. So sitting down ahead of time, having those rough conversations, this is a hard one for caregivers. This is a very hard one. But when you have it, at least it's like, "Whew, okay, I got it out the way." I got it out the way, and now we can keep moving and talk about something else. But that it wasn't easy for me, especially coming on the heels of losing one parent, to now have a conversation with my other parent after a couple of months about what her wishes are, what plans she has in place, and how does she want things carried out. And I plan to carry it to the T, just like we did with my dad. So many people were asking and looking and going, y'all ain't gonna have a funeral or memorial service for your dad? And I was like, that's what he wanted. That's what his wishes were, right? And so when I was able to relay that to people, it shut it down. It shut down the why you ain't having, and I want, no, what you want is so not important right now. These are his wishes. And so as caregivers, we need to be able to say, these are the person's wishes. We sat down and discussed it. If you can document it or have other family members there with you, that would be great, because that way we're all on the same page. And I'm going to tell you something else as a side note. Even if you meet and it's a whole bunch of family members, right? And you guys are talking about what the last wishes are going to be of that person's right there, and you guys are all making decisions. And that person is openly telling you what they want. Please understand, on the back end, unfortunately, you always going to have a couple of family members that be like, oh, well, I know what they said, but I want, right? I want this. I want that. That's why if you can have it put in a will or in some kind of writing, legible document where you know that person took care of it, a will is always the best. Outlining their plans, it is always best. It will stop a lot of the arguing amongst family members as far as what they want done and what they see as beneficial when you've already sat down to talk about the plans with that other person. Thank you so much once again for the hearts and likes. And that's what it goes into. I keep looking down because I wrote some stuff down. That's where it goes to, just notifying other family and friends. There are some people who don't have a lot of family members. I know, and this was really rough. I was friends with an older lady, and this was years ago. She had been married and she was a widow. They had no children. She had no other family members. And when she passed away, we were missing her. Nobody knew where she was because we were used to having a schedule. She was a very active older woman. When we realized we hadn't seen her in a couple of days and nobody could get in contact with her, she had literally gotten herself dressed, sat down in her living room, and passed away. And that's how they found her. No one knew what her will were, her plans were, what her thoughts were as far as what she wanted done. She had never discussed that with anyone. And so there was a scramble as far as what to do. So even though she didn't have family, there were friends that could have been informed of what she wanted. We didn't see it coming, right? And so that's why I say not only tell family, but tell your friends. It's not good to isolate yourself so completely that you don't have anyone to fall back on or no one knows your wishes. And if you don't feel comfortable telling your friends, find some way to tell an attorney, put it in writing, and then give that friend access to the attorney information so that they know what your wills are, your plans are, and what you want done. So sometimes that happens to people. Unfortunately, they die alone because they're not willing to open themselves up, and then no one sees it coming. I mean, she was fully dressed, so we knew she was going out. Think about that. These are the hard, tough conversations that we don't like to have, but we have to, so that everybody understands. Now, this information is coming up. I'll be putting that in another checklist on my website. Here's my shameless plug, because there is one. But this is what I do. I am a caregiver, and I worry about other people who are just getting into caregiving. And there's some conversations we need to have. Before I end this, I came out with the Caregiver's Guide. In here, it starts off with the three basic areas. I know I say three and I'm doing like this. The three basic areas that we need to address when we first start giving care. Remember when I said the funeral arrangements plays off of one of these first three that you want to put in place if you start to give care. So go to my Etsy store. I put a video up. I'm going to post again about it. Get yourself a copy. It's a digital download. It starts the conversations that we so crucially need to have when we provide care. And for those of you guys giving caregiving services, I know I'm saying it, caregivers giving caregiving services, hats off to you. Wonderful job. Well done. You are the real heroes, and you guys are awesome. Hang tight. You can do it. Your girl right here with you, okay? I'm going to get my day started. I got one more thing to do, and then I'll get my day started. This is your girl, Essie. Remember to like, follow, repost, subscribe, to share. Thank you for all the hearts and the likes. I'm out.